Welcome back to the continuing Moose Symposium. We have with us today Dr. John Alden with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Dr. Alden received his Bachelor of Science in Forestry from the University of New Hampshire in Durham in 1958 and a PhD in Forest Ecology Physiology with a minor in Forest Genetics from the Oregon State University, Corvallis in 1971. He's worked as a silviculturist with the U.S. Forest Service on the Klamath National Forest in California, 1960 to 1966, and was employed as a research forester in tree improvement with the U.S. Forest Service in Reca, California, 1970-75. In 1995, Dr. Alden retired but remained affiliated with the University of Alaska School of Agriculture and Land Resource Management. He is the current director of Alaska Reforestation Council, and his major responsibilities include selecting, testing, breeding Pinus Douglas fir and PCF for adaptability, growth, and disease resistance. We've been very interested in Dr. Alden's work, in particular the issue of winter browse, and there are a number of species that might be considered winter browse. And again, this is not to replace willows, but to be available when the willows are not, especially in times of significant distress with the moose, typically the months of January, February, and March. We've heard from across the continent, and also as Dr. Regland referred to in the Scandinavian countries, that pine is a winter browse. Certainly not as nutritious as willows, but very important during the downtime. Dr. Alden has evidence here in Alaska of Scotch pine, and it's being browsed by moose during challenging times, and we're very pleased to have him with us. There's been an issue of whether or not pine is an indigenous species. Are we bringing in an invasive species? Through another researcher from the University of Alaska, we discovered that apparently that all pine in the world has its ancestry in Bristol Bay. But some event occurred way back when where it is no longer indigenous to this area. Through the oil field work and drilling, they discovered an ancient source of pine. We do know that it's available in southeast Alaska, but not too many places north of Yakutat. As we bring this up, we're looking at ways that the private landowner might be able to do some small pockets of planting to act as a stopgap opportunity for moose to survive the winters. With that said, without further ado, please welcome Dr. John Alden.
Thank you, Tom. My presentation comes almost entirely from a survey that the State Division of Forestry asked me to do on introduced tree species and how they are colonizing, if they are colonizing in Alaska. And in my survey, one of the species is Scotch pine, which is probably the predominant winter browse conifer. In fact, it may be even the primary source of winter browse for moose in Scandinavia and elsewhere in the world. And Scotch pine has the world's largest, it's the most common and has the largest distribution in the world as far as conifers are concerned. It's circumpolar and ranges all across Asia, Europe, and it's even naturalized now in North America, in the Lake States regions, New England, and in Ontario, Canada. So it has almost a circumpolar distribution. So in my, as a result of my survey and this presentation, I prepared a proposal for investigating the use of conifers and our native species as a winter browse species, or to evaluate those. And unfortunately I made 10 copies of a improved draft I think you probably have an early draft in your brochure. But to start with, I will show these photographs from my report and discuss this proposal more or less as I drift through the presentation.
Oh, a little technical issue here. There we go.
Okay, this is my first slide. Is that clear to everybody, or can you see this? Seems rather dark. This is a planting of Scotch pine at Talkeetna, and it's the Porcorny Tree Farm, which was started in the very late 80s, and he has total of about 80 acres of primarily Scotch pine. He started with Scotch pine and found that the moose liked Scotch pine so well that he switched to lodgepole, and then he also, in this 80 acres, he has a substantial amount of the Siberian larches planted, and primarily for landscaping and marketing in the Anchorage area. Now this planting, this was a transplant bed of Scotch pine before the moose. Oh, there we are. And you can see in the foreground is an area, it actually extends back, but there is birch and aspen in the background. And you can see the moose have just really hammered this species. In fact, it's completely devastated. Where the native species in the background still survive, they've all been browsed, heavily browsed. Let's see my next slide. Okay, now in contrast to Scotch pine, which moose seem to prefer for browse, lodgepole pine, they also have a big impact on lodgepole pine, but it's more that they physically damage the lodgepole pine. And during rutting season, they seem to maybe like the odor or something, or they use those widely for rubbing the velvet from their antlers. And this little tree is an example here. You can see where it's been physically stripped of lower branches and the tree is killed. So that's comparing the two species. Now here